Oh. Whoop. Did I take my earphone? I did. I thought I was still wearing my earphones. This is really near to me, isn't it? Hello, it's Saturday. Welcome to Saturday. I have had a very busy and productive morning. I am feeling pretty good. What have I got on my mouth? I just got cake around my mouth. I hope you didn't see that. I've just had a cupcake. Phoebe made a load of cupcakes the other day. I have brushed my hair today, by the way, but it's now sort of become dishevelled. Yeah, she made some cupcakes. Oh, they were lovely. So she made half of them with butter icing, but she ran out of butter icing, so she dug little holes in the centre of the other half and put Nutella in them. Just had that with a cup of tea. It's gorgeous. So I earned that cake though, because I have spent the whole day so far. I got up, I edited. It's now 2 o'clock. I've spent from about 8:30 this morning until now cleaning, tidying, sorting, getting stuff out from under my feet. I've been doing stuff that I've been putting off for ages. I have deep cleaned the kitchen. I have deep cleaned the bathroom. I even took the toilet seat off, put it in the bath, sprayed it and showered it. It's had its own shower. The toilet seat had its own pampering experience. So I have been extremely busy, and as a result the house is feeling really nice and clean and fresh and lovely. So I am now going to reward myself, as promised, with a good old long chat about books and do a bit of a reading update. So I've got my notebook here and I've got my phone with my story graph on. So my story graph is always linked underneath. I am on Goodreads, but I can't remember what my username is and I don't use it particularly. I found Storygraph and then found that I much preferred that. So what am I on Storygraph? Probably Starry Eyes Alley, and that's where I post, keep updated on all of my reading. And last time I spoke to you, which was before Vlogtober, I had just caught you up as far as Kitchen. I had finished Kitchen, which is a novella by Banana Yoshimoto, whilst I was on holiday in Spain, and I had just started, and that was a hard copy book. Then I started an audio book by Victoria Hislop, The Return, and I was also reading The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. So we'll start from there and go through it. Now, a little sort of advanced disclaimer in that I am not a professional booktuber in any way, but I have been inspired by the likes of Victoria at What Victoria Read, and Charlotte at Books and Bargains, and Claire at Claire. She's a relatively new one on me. Claire Femby, she's lovely. Good morning, Mr. Magpie. How's your lady wife? Oh, sitting on a wire. Oh, there's 2. Oh, 2 for joy. That's good. That means it might go well. Yeah, I've been inspired by the likes of them to talk more about my reading, because I really enjoy hearing other people talking about their reading, and I really enjoy hearing you talk in the comments about what you're reading and so on. So it's fun to keep you updated. I feel like I need to get more comfortable for this. Let's do some adjustment. My back's still hurting quite a bit. I'm still doing my daily stretches for my pulled muscle in my back, and yeah, it's waking me up every night. It wakes me up at some point. Wow, the light is amazing out there. It's sort of raining and sunny at the same time. I could do it not glaring in at me, but oh, it's just lovely. I feel like I've been really distracted since I began, but I'm not going to start again. I'm just gonna keep going. So yeah, I'm not a professional booktuber, and I always think when I'm reading or listening to books that I have so much to say about them that I'm like, oh, I must remember to say this. And then when I come to talk about it, I completely forget. And then when I'm editing it, I remember, and then I get really annoyed that I forgot. So we're just gonna go with what I can do. So let's start with where we left off. I had just started listening to The Return by Victoria Hislop. It was narrated by Jane Wymark, who did a really good job. I thought the narrator did a really fantastic job. Let me just bring this up slightly. It's set in Granada, and the character of Sonia is the main character, and she travels to Granada with her friend to learn salsa dancing, but they end up stumbling into a flamenco class, and she meets a cafe owner who tells her his story about a famous, his time and a famous flamenco dancer and a whole family's history during the Spanish Civil War, which is a period of history that I know absolutely nothing about, and that made this book extremely interesting. I feel like I learned a lot about what was that period of time. I really enjoyed it. I found the story very good, and the history and the research was obviously brilliant, but I didn't really like the characters particularly, like the main character of Sonia. Yeah, and there was and some of the connections were slightly convenient, and her relationship, the main character's relationship, which isn't the biggest part of the story, but her relationship with her husband and his behaviour just seems, and her reactions to it just seemed not realistic and not very good. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I think that was mainly for the history and the research that I could see went into it. It was quite a long book at 14 hours and 43 minutes, but the actual sort of story around the history didn't really enjoy, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the writing. I was really looking forward to it because I read years ago when it first came out, The Island, which is the one set in on an island for people with leprosy. I think that was set in Greece, I think, and I loved that at the time. But yeah, this just, yeah, it didn't do it for me quite. At the same time, my eyeball book was The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman, which is the 3rd book in the Thursday Murder Club series. I put off reading this for a while purely because I listened to the first 2 on audio, which were narrated by Lesley Manville, and I really enjoyed them. But then they changed the narrator. I don't know why they changed the narrator halfway through a series to Fiona Shaw, who's a fantastic actress, but by that time I was invested in the characters' voices only with Lesley Manville. I tried a few times to listen to the Fiona Shaw version of this number 3 book, but I just couldn't do it. So I bought it and read it instead, and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It very much felt like a book in a series. That's why I didn't give it 5 stars, because even though it was really funny, it was typical Richard Osman, the characters are so lovable, but I felt like because it's been a while since I listened to the first 2, there was stuff that I felt like I didn't understand as well because I couldn't quite remember everything that had happened in the previous 2 books. So I'm not going to leave it too long before I read the 4th one. I've got that lined up. But yeah, as usual, really lovely, light, funny, touching. The characters are just perfect. Their relationships are perfect. And I do love how the books in the series are literally happening one on top of the others, because it's all set in a retirement community. So they're older generation characters, all in their 70s and 80s. But they're not really aging as the books go on, because these events are all happening over the, one after the other. Not with years in between. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Sorry, I should say as well, I want to start making a note of where I listen to these, when I listen to an audiobook, where I listen to them, because there's lots of options out there. So I listen to The Return on Audible. I pay a subscription to Audible, which I think at the moment is about $7.99 a month, so you get a certain amount of things included in that as part of your subscription in the Audible Plus catalogue. But your $7.99 a month gets you 1 credit a month as well. So I spent a credit on that with Audible. And the next one I'm about to mention, I listen to on Everand, which is another subscription service. I pay £10 or $10.99 a month for Everand, and everything is unlimited on it. You get ebooks, newspapers, sheet music, and audiobooks as well. They don't always have as big a selection as Audible, but it is very good. I often find things on here that I want to listen to if I always search here first if it's not in the library apps. So yes, so the next one I listened to was recommended to me by a friend who I used to work with years and years ago. We met up in the summer for drinks and we ended up talking about books. We always had a shared love of Terry Pratchett, and we actually went to an event together when after we'd finished working together. We met up and we went to an event where we actually watched Terry Pratchett talking about his latest release at the time, which was, I can't remember what it was. Can't remember Could have been Thud, but it might not have been. Anyway, he was speaking about that and his dementia diagnosis. Is it Alzheimer's, I think? And yeah, that was brilliant. Anyway, that friend I went for a drink with, and she recommended a couple of books to me, so I decided to listen to one of those, and that was The Alice Network by Kate Quinn, and that was narrated by Saskia Marleveld, and oh my goodness, what a fantastic job that narrator did. She could do all the accents, and there were French, German, Northern, English, American, yeah, all of the accents she could do. Really, really good. I became convinced she was American, and then even at the end when she did this was narrated by, she did it in American accent, but I think she's actually British. Anyway, that aside, it's all set, let me just remind myself, it's historical fiction, and it was set in the Second World War. So you've got it's set partly in 1947, just after the end of the Second World War, and the main character is called Charlie. She is pregnant. At the beginning of the book, we know she's pregnant, and she's also searching for her cousin, who's like a sister to her, who went missing at some point during the Second World War. You've also got, at the same time, we keep going back to the First World War for Eve, and her story as a female spy in occupied Lille in France in the First World War. And they come together, these two characters, and you get the story of how Eve is helping Charlie, but you've also got the story of Eve's background as well. I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, but I have thought about it so much since, I'm beginning to wonder if I should just up it to 5 stars, because really, as a historical fiction novel, it was brilliant. It didn't hold back. It was quite harrowing and sometimes violent in places. I found the writing was great. I found the narration was great. The characters were fantastic. Yeah, I just loved it, The Alice Network. So I went straight from that and listened to The Rose Code, also by Kate Quinn and also narrated by Saskia Marleveld. This one was also set in the Second World War, but it's set during the Second World War, and how many years afterwards? Yeah, set in 1940 during the Second World War, and 1947 a little bit after the Second World War. There is a bit of a cameo appearance from a young Prince Philip in this, which I loved. I thought that was really, really clever, really, really good. And that it's mainly set around 3 main characters who all come together from different backgrounds to work together at Bletchley Park, where they were cracking codes during the war. Loved it. Gave it 4.5 stars again. Really, really good, and really lovely if you've got a bit of an interest in the Second World War as well. Really enjoyed both of those. But yeah, just be warned, she doesn't hold back. You know, she does talk about things. It's a lovely book, and not something that's all about violence and things, but there are violent bits and there are things that are described that are quite, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment at all. I then read before it came out, because I had an advance copy thanks to my, at the time, bookseller daughter. She is now at university, but she was working for Waterstones at the time. She got an advance copy of We Solve Murders, which is the brand new series from Richard Osman. So it's still sort of murder mystery, but it's different set of characters. And we have got Steve, who's a retired policeman. We've got Amy, who is a professional bodyguard, security bodyguard. And we have got, what was the name of the other character? Rosie D'Antonio. Now, I don't know if Rosie D'Antonio is going to be a recurring character. I know Steve and Amy are. They are father-in-law and daughter-in-law. You don't meet the husband. He's in it and he's referred to, but I'm sure that's all going to come to light in the next books in the series. There was lots of really lovely characters in this that I really, really enjoyed, and there was a little bit at the end of the book, a little note from Richard Osman where he says, you know, a lot of these characters he's definitely going to be bringing back in future books, which I thought was really good. But I really do hope that Rosie sticks with them, because I thought she was a really fun addition to the duo of Steve and Amy. So in this particular book, you've got Amy is protecting Rosie D'Antonio, who I realise I'm probably saying her name wrong all the time. She's a very, very famous author, and Amy works for a security firm. Her boss disappears, and there is some kind of criminal underbelly going on, and in true Richard Osman style, people that you think are terrible baddies end up sort of, you know, like in Thursday Murder Club, they end up like moving in with them and staying in their spare room and being very lovely. It's got that typical feel to it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I will definitely be reading any of the books that he writes in that series. I gave it 4 stars. I then listened to, oh my goodness, I listened to The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore, narrated by Regina Regan. I am really sorry to everyone that likes this book. Obviously this is only my opinion, but I absolutely hated this book. I don't know why I finished it. I'm not very good at like not finishing books. I do tend to finish them. So I did finish it. I gave it 2.5 stars. I don't know why it's called The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. It's got nothing to do with autumn pumpkins, the season. It's not cosy. There was barely any description of like the cafe or anything like that, other than the fact that she runs a cafe, the main character, who's the main character? Jeannie. So she runs this cafe that her aunt has randomly left her, and people come in and they drink pumpkin spice lattes, but on the whole it's just about her obsessing about the local farmer and him being a bit grumpy, and then they fall in love, and that is literally it. I'm not saying any more about this book. I would say no spoilers, but there's nothing to spoil. It was just like, what? I then listened to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This was quite cute. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. It was a bit slow and loose in the middle of the book. It just felt a bit like, there were bits where I was just like, what's happening? What? I don't get it. What's happening here? There's nothing happening. But then it kind of picked up towards the end and then sort of slowed down again. So it was good. I think there is a follow-up. I would read the follow-up, I have to say, because I don't know if this is a debut novel or not. It was narrated by Samara McLaren, by the way. Oh, and I forgot to say where I've been listening to it. So I listened to both The Rose Code and The Alice Network on Everand. I listened to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe on Everand. I listened to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches on Audible. And no, it doesn't look like this was a debut novel. She's written quite a few things before by the looks of it, including some children's books. So yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, it was okay. I would probably listen to the next one just to see what it's like, to see if it improves. I liked the magic elements, like because it's all about witches obviously, and different writers do a different way of how magic works in a world where you're kind of set in the normal human world, but there are witches and they're a bit secret. And the way that she has magic work and how they use it and the things that they can do with it, I thought was really good. Better than some other books that I've read, so that was good. Hex and Hex Ability I read next. So I listened to this on Everand. I'd previously given it a go and just couldn't do it because I just didn't think the narrator was doing a good job, even though previously the first 2 books in this series, which was, so this is a series of 3 so far. So we had Hex Appeal, Hex in the City, and now Hex and Hex Ability. They're all by Kate Johnson, and I listened to the first 2 on Audible, and I listened to the 3rd one on Everand. They're all narrated by the same narrator, who is Catherine Walker Booth. And I just couldn't get on with the narrator on this 3rd one, but I kind of got used to it in the end, and I did listen to it, and I did think it was okay, but I just didn't think it was anywhere near as much as I really enjoyed the first 2, and this one was a bit like, yeah. I didn't care really. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. I wish it had been better. And then in the background, whilst I was listening to all of those, my eyeball book was The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I read on my beloved, where is it? Kindle. I love this thing. What can I say? The House in the Cerulean Sea is by TJ Klune. I believe it is the first in a series, and there is already a follow-up being published. I loved it. I loved absolutely everything about it. It was, we are in a world where there are magical beings, but they're not treated very well by society. They're seen as sort of outsiders. And there are orphanages, they're called orphanages, for children who are magical. And there is an organisation called the Department in Charge of Magical Youth. And it's up to them to make sure that these children are in orphanages and that the orphanages are keeping them under control, but also that they're providing them with the care that they should be. So this was number 1 in the Cerulean Chronicles, and we're following Linus, and he is an inspector at the Department in Charge of Magical Youth, and he is sent to an orphanage in the Cerulean Sea, where he is tasked with determining whether 6 very dangerous magical children are likely to bring about the end of the world. I just need to pause and delete something, hang on. Okay, sorry about that, I was running out of space in my memory card. What was I saying? Oh yes, The House in the Cerulean Sea. So he's sent to this orphanage where he meets these 6 children, and the writing was great. It was sweet, it was interesting. The pace of the book was great. I just wanted to pick it up all the time. I fell in love with all of the characters, the children, all of them. I just adored the setting of it. I adored, most of all, the romance in this book is the sweetest, most touching thing. I was just all in. I was just all in for the couple in this book, and I was just all in for everyone having a happy ending. And it was brilliant from start to finish. Just my kind of book, just my cup of tea. I gave it 5 stars. I couldn't give it anything less. It was wonderful. Yeah, absolutely one of my favourite books of this year. And that was by TJ Klune. I then listened to Devil's Breath by Jill Johnson. And I listened to this, it was another, on BorrowBox, I think, BorrowBox, another free library app. And it was narrated by Rachel Capel. This was part of a buddy read I was doing with some friends of mine. You might have heard my friend Becky over at the Back to Blighty podcast talking about this, because she was one of those friends. In fact, it was her suggestion, because it was kind of, it was about Professor Eustacia, why can't I say this word? Eustacia Rose. I believe it's the first in a series. I would listen or read the next in the series. I liked the character of Eustacia. I liked her a lot. I thought she was very good. She is the Professor of Botanical Toxicology at UCL, at University College London. She lives alone, and for some reason we know there was an incident in which she has now lost her job, and she's just curating a collection of poisonous plants just for her own research and as a hobby. She's quite an unusual character. She's a little bit, she doesn't process emotions in the same way, and in quite the same way as the vast majority of the population. She doesn't always read facial expressions. She's quite matter of fact. She dresses in a very androgynous way, and she lives in her deceased father's clothes. Basically, she wears a man's old suit all the time. Anyway, and there's a bit of a murder mystery kidnapping thing going on throughout the book, and she kind of gets accused but then ends up helping the police with their investigation. I really enjoyed it. It was good. The narration, not so much. I thought the narration was quite terrible, but I did enjoy the book overall. I gave it, what did I give it? I gave it 4 stars, and I think I would stick with that. I like the description of plants and everything. I then listened to Miranda Hart's new book. I haven't been entirely honest with you. She narrates it herself. This is a it's a non-fiction self-help type book. Miranda battled. So if you don't know who Miranda Hart is, she had the very successful comedy series, which ran for I think 2 or 3 series, called Miranda. It was very funny. It got a lot of love because it had a lot of heart to it. It was also extremely silly. And then she kind of disappeared for a long time, and it turns out that she was very ill. She was battling with all kinds of viruses, and then it transpired that they diagnosed that she had at some point had Lyme disease, and that had been what had been causing a lot of her issues. And then she went on a kind of emotional internal journey about how she was going to recover from what she'd been through and get back to life and find love as well. And I really enjoyed it. Miranda's very funny. I like listening to her speaking. I like her little asides. And there was some interesting food for thought in there as well that really made me think about how we look after our mental health and our physical health, and what we can do for ourselves to keep us mentally happy. So I really enjoyed that. I gave it 4 stars. And I was reading in the background. I just realised I had 2 of the books here. I brought them down so I could hold them up, and I didn't. These are in Dan's pile now. He's going to read them. But that's my advanced copy of We Solve Murders. This is my normal copy of The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. It doesn't have its dust cover on it because I didn't want to damage the dust cover, but it does have its sprayed edges, which are so pretty. And I pre-ordered this. Well, Lilia pre-ordered it for me from Waterstones when she was still working there. So I got it with the sprayed edges. I got it straight away when it came out. And where is it? It's signed, which is very exciting. And I like the end pages as well, because they've got the constellations. So this is about, so there's a few things here. So when I first started reading it, I thought, yeah, it's okay. It was a bit slow, and I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy it. And then about 50 pages in, I really started to feel quite cosy with it. I was curling up with it thinking, this is lovely. This is like this is a hot chocolate. That's what it is. It's sweet, it's comforting, and it's cute, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm about 100 pages from the end now, and I've really enjoyed the characters. It's very funny. I like the sort of sassy relationship that she has with the love interest character. I like the character of, what's his name? Ah, no, the bookmark just fell out. I have to remember where I was now. Do you like my bookmark though? This is one of Victoria's bookmarks, and what Victoria read. She does a whole load of different seasonal ones. So I thought this was very good to go with my blue book, and because of I thought it matched the sprayed edges as well. I'm going to have to find my place now. But anyway, what's the name of the character I'm thinking of? Artorius. I like the character of Artorius. I like his little backstory. I'm wondering what the deal is with him. And yeah, there's a lot in this that I really like. Obviously, this is a debut novel, so this is her, this is her first time out doing this as an author. She's got a lovely YouTube channel. I'm quite invested in her as a person because I really like her. I like her videos. And if she writes another one, I'll definitely be pre-ordering it and getting it, because I am invested in these characters and I really love them. And that brings us up to date. I should finish this today or tomorrow, I hope. I'm really looking forward to that. We've got a train journey tomorrow because we'll go into London to meet Lilia because she's coming home for the week. And then after I finish that one, I've decided that I wish to read this one, which you might remember me showing a couple of months ago when I got it from Illumicrate. Lilia, at the time, before she went away to uni, helped me open this up. It is The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean. And yeah, it just seems like a nice sort of cosy read for this time of year. And the artwork in this is amazing. Look at that's one of the end pages. And then it's got this glorious sprayed edges as well. Maybe that's what's making me think it's for this time of year, because of that orangey autumnal feel. And that's us up to date. And need to get a new one up on my Kindle as well. Oh, and I'm listening. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm listening to A Court of Thorns and Roses. I've been listening to it all day as I've been cleaning. I don't think I'm enjoying it. I thought I was to begin with. Now I'm just not sure. The whole story, the whole foundation of the story doesn't make sense to me. I am not sure why. And so I'm going to I'll put a picture up of the book whilst I'm talking about it, just in case I slip in any spoilers. And when the picture disappears, that means I've stopped talking about it. So you can mute me if you want. So Feyre is a human. She kills a wolf thinking it's just a normal wolf. It turns out it's a fairy in wolf form. And there's some kind of treaty between the human world and the fairy world, which means she therefore has to go and live with the fairies instead of being killed. Or perhaps it's just this particular high fae, because he's like a fairy lord that comes to, reap their revenge. I don't know if it's just because he makes that decision because he fancies her or something like that. Anyway, he takes her back to the fairy realm where she then lives in absolute luxury with them and his henchmen. Obviously there's a romance there as well, and then there's all these other dangers, but all these situations that she seems to get herself in are entirely her own fault. Like they'll say don't go in the woods, so she'll go in the woods, and then they have to go and rescue her. Or they'll say, stay in your room while this ceremony is going on, so she doesn't stay in her room and gets into a scrape, and they have to rescue her. I mean, she's a pain. And then for some reason, even though they have to bring her to live with them instead of killing her because it's something to do with part of a treaty, there's other fairies that find out that she's there and they might kill her, so then she has to go home. Maybe it's just over my head a bit, but I'm very confused by what's going on and the actual foundation of the whole world and the whole story. And I'm not sure I care, but I will finish it to find out what on earth's going on. And that's where we are. This is going to be quite a long vlog of me really rabbiting on about books, but that's what you're getting today for day 19 of Vlogtober. So you will be watching this on Sunday. Hopefully you're watching it with a bit of knitting, or you're doing the washing up, or maybe you're cooking Sunday dinner, or maybe you're just sitting with a cup of tea or a glass of wine or something, and it'll just keep you company for 4 hours. I will see you tomorrow for Sunday and day 20 of Vlogtober. See you then. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget, let me know in the comments what you're reading, and that also leads me to say, hang on, I will go in a minute, but I just want to give someone a little shout out. Jessica. So I just had to go and check your email to check you weren't a Jess, because I know your email's a Jessica, but she's a Jessica. Jessica, I have seen your 2 emails. I'm sorry I haven't replied. I want to reply. I just need to give myself the time to sit down and give myself 10 minutes to do that. But thank you very much for your email. The answer is yes, I will email you back. Promise. And thank you so much. And on that slightly mysterious note, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.